Welcome to DentiMax. In this video, I want to go over the new collections module that we've added to your activity center. So if you go to the activities menu and go down to collections, you're going to see that you have a screen where you can filter and search for different criteria. For example, you could do a chart number range, a date of service range, if there's a particular date of service that you're trying to clean up in the system. The date of first statement is older than so many days, for example, which is in the form of a date field. You also have the option to exclude any patients that have payments as of a certain date, or if they have a balance greater than a certain amount of money. In this example, let's go ahead and say that their balance is greater than $10 and that they received their first statement about 2 months ago. That would make them about 60 days past due at this point. If you're on top of your collections and you want to be fairly assertive about expecting timely payments, then a couple months old as far as having the first statement sent out is totally reasonable to look at sending that patient a collections letter or a pre-collections letter. So I have my date here of the first statement and the dollar amount. I'm going to go ahead and click View Charges. And here's all the patients that have charges that are greater than $10 and that the statement went out more than a couple of months ago. You'll notice that a patient may be listed multiple times. That's because the actual charge is what's going to be sent to collections or sent a letter about being in pre-collections. Sometimes the patient may pay on one of the charges that they had on a date of service, but yet there's other charges that they're struggling against to pay. And so this is why it is charge specific instead of just account specific. They may be current on a more recent date of service, and the older date is the one that they're struggling to get clear with you on. We're going to go ahead and look at the example of Harold Jeffs. We can see the date of service here is from 2018. The code was a limited exam. The fee was $45, and he still owes $21 of that. He received his first statement back in January of 2020. He may be resistant to paying because it took us about a year to send him a statement for this amount. In this case, we might take the approach of sending him a low-level collections letter, which you can dictate a system for what that means to you. I would suggest that you use the low collections to just be a warning to people that they're on your radar, that they're needing to catch up with the payment with you. The medium collections is getting a little more serious where they're inching towards actually maybe going to a collections agency or having their patient status revoked with the provider that they see. And then high collections is basically a last-ditch effort to collect that money before you send that patient to collections, or you could use it as the last letter that tells them that they have been sent to collections. We set up a baseline system for you in addition to letters that correspond with each of these statuses. So if I go ahead and put Harold Jeff's charge in a low level of collections, which let me just select him by himself and click Send to Collections, I want to go ahead and show you that in the report screen, I can actually type in the word collection, and you're going to see that there's a collection letter here. If I double click to run that collection letter, you can choose what date range that the patient may have been placed into collections, which obviously for Harold was today. You can do a date range if you'd like, or a chart number, or a balance as well, or you could use all three filters in conjunction. And the preview of this letter is basically our low-level collections letter. It's a bit friendly. It's asking the patient to work out a payment schedule, and it's showing the charge and how many days past due that charge is and what the remaining balance is. So it's kind of a friendly but warning letter, letting the patient know that you're willing to work with them, but you do expect a response from them. If I go ahead and run that collections letter and go back a little bit further where I may have sent others to collections, I just want to show you another example. You can print these letters out in a batch. The letter to Robert Biggs is a little more assertive, and you're seeing that the verbiage in the letter is quite different from the low-level collections letter that we would have sent to Harold. So as you can see below, we are letting the patient know that we have turned this invoice over to a collections agency and that he'll need to find a new dental service provider. So this is going to be the high collections letter, which lays out the charges that are being sent to collections and the total dollar amount. If we go over to the next page, I can see that this is our medium collections letter because it's not telling the patient that they've been sent to collections, but it's warning them that to avoid being sent to collections, that they'll need to go ahead and pay us by November 1st. So you can see that there's varying degrees of collections letters that will automatically print out when you run this report according to the status that you've placed that patient in. If the patient has multiple items in collections with different statuses, for example, an item in low-level collections, medium, and high, the high-level letter, or the one that's the greater of all of them, is the one that's going to print and also lay out the other charges that are in a lesser recovery status. So these letters can easily be printed out. If you need assistance modifying some of the verbiage to your preference, feel free to give our support team a call and they'll be happy to help with that. Another item that's available to you is the pre-collections letter. Now, I use the collection screen to help show me maybe those people with the $10, instead of putting them in the low level of collections, I start by sending them a pre-collection letter. So in this case, let's go ahead and use Harold Jeffs as our example. He got a statement a couple of months ago. It's only for $10, but we haven't received it, and he's received a couple of statements since then. So we do want to remind him or poke him that it's something we'd like his attention on, and maybe we haven't placed that item into any sort of collection sequence yet. So this pre-collection letter is going to be the initial or the first warning that we're going to send him. This details where he can send his payment to. It's a friendly letter. It states that if there's some sort of error or he's unable to pay, give us a call. We're going to work with you. Again, the verbiage can be edited if you'd like. And it's just letting him know that he's got some outstanding charges in the form of a letter instead of a phone call. Maybe that person's voicemail has been full for quite some time, and you've sent them text messages and they haven't called you. This is a great initial first step before you get into that collection process. So that pre-collections letter can be used for any patient that has an outstanding balance that you'd like to nudge a little bit. Now, in addition to those two reports, we did also add a collections report, which will just show you what patients are in collections and what their status is. There's a lot of different filters here in this screen. I'm just going to go ahead and click OK so I can see everybody that I've sent to collections. And this report is organized by the level of collections that the patient is in. Again, if they have multiple charges that are in collections, the system will default and place that patient in the group with the highest level of collections activity that they have. So Robert, he has one charge that's a high level collection and two that are low, but because he has one high, he's automatically grouped in with the high level folks. The same is true for Joan Frank. She has one high level item, and then Jessica as well. And then we get into our medium items and then low. If we go over to the second page here, it shows you that there's 12 patients on this report with a total of 25 procedures. And these 25 procedures equal $16,350 in revenue that is outstanding and that we've sent some sort of collection warning to at that point. So this is a nice report just to help you keep track of who's in collections and make sure you're taking the next step if that means moving that person from low status to medium, or medium to high, or high to actually sending them to collections. This report can help you keep track of that in addition to the actual collection screen. Aside from the letters, when we go to the patient's account, there's a couple of triggers that actually happen when you place an item in collections. For example, if I pull up Robert Biggs, you'll see that there is a pop-up alert here that says charges in collections. So immediately we're notified by that pop-up that this patient does have some charges that are in collection status. That alert automatically occurs when you place that patient's charge in collection status. Another thing you'll notice is that in the ledger, either the detailed or the summary view, that there is some color coding here. The red item is a charge that was sent to collections, and because red is a little more serious, this is going to indicate that it's in the high level of collections. You can also customize your view by right-clicking on the screen and going to Customize View, and adding the collections in date to your screen so you know what date that item was sent to collections or placed in that status initially. And then collections out. If the patient happens to pay you for that charge, you can take it out of collections. If you double click to open up the charge and look at the charge detail, you'll also be able to see here that there's a new collections box. It does also show you what date the item was sent to collections, what statement batch that was in, and then what collections phase that's in, low, medium, or high. And then if you do want to remove this item from collections, you can go ahead and enter a date for that, and it'll come out of collections. The yellow charges here are low-level items that were marked as being in a collection status as of September 24th. In addition, if he had a medium charge that was in collections, it would be an orange color. So these visual cues are designed to make sure that you seize every opportunity to collect that patient's money. You're encountering that patient either over the phone or in person. If you have any questions on how to use the new collections module, please contact the training department at 1-800-704-8494. Thank you.